Hi there, welcome back to the Community of Readers video blog. We're following the Old Testament readings for the Monkey Bar Challenge, and this week we're looking at the first half of the book of Daniel. This is called Opportunity in Exile. It may seem strange that we've gone straight from dealing with Ezekiel all in one go to Daniel in two halves, but Daniel is split very clearly in two and deals with themes that we really haven't encountered elsewhere. Daniel, the man, was taken in the first wave of Babylonian exile from Judah, once Nebuchadnezzar had first invaded and installed Zedekiah as a puppet king. And Daniel was a member of the aristocracy, and this was part of Nebuchadnezzar's tactic to take people of wealth or influence or skilled members of society away into exile, partly to deprive Judah of any way of really functioning well and therefore rebelling, but also as a means of taking the people most able to be put into service usefully in Babylon. And so Daniel and his friends were taken, given new names, and so the story goes from there. And the really interesting thing about the story of Daniel is that here are four men, Daniel with his friends Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, four men who end up being incredibly successful in the halls of a foreign superpower. I mean, Babylon was the great power of the region at that time. Judah was a relative nowhere. These Jews are exiles. They really are subjects, although they're skilled. I mean, they are not powerful people in the new empire, but Daniel in particular becomes a powerful person. And Yahweh, their God, is served in the end by Nebuchadnezzar. He's humbled, he has a vision, and he's humbled like a donkey. And Darius the Mede, after putting Daniel in the lion's den and then taking him out again, issues a decree that everyone must worship the God of Daniel. Now, there's two things that are really significant here. The first is that we haven't been at any point in the story of the Old Testament this far. We haven't been in the halls of a foreign superpower in the way that we are here in these stories. I mean, we kind of popped in for a moment in the beginning of Exodus as Moses storms into the court of Pharaoh and demands Yahweh let his people go. But this is life lived in the court. I mean, we spent time in the court of Samaria and Jerusalem, but that's different. That's Israel's home, and that relatively small fry. But this is Babylon, the big power. And yet the great irony of Daniel is that here we have these people like Daniel taken to a foreign place, given a new name, one that reflects the Babylonian gods rather than Yahweh, put in a completely foreign culture, which is the utter antithesis of everything that Yahweh and monotheistic Judaism is about. And yet Yahweh seems to be more successful here than he was in the Judah that rejected him for exile. In the years, the centuries that followed the exile, this kind of approach to thinking about power, to thinking about faith, what it meant to be the people of God, what it meant to succeed, would have a big impact on how the people lived, how the people of Israel lived. Because really, Daniel finds political success in Babylon in a way that you would never have expected. And the exile was such a monumental moment in Israel's history, and we cannot overestimate how monumental that was. This was the moment where everything changed. This is the moment we go from being utterly Jerusalem-centric and broaden out into a world where people are scattered and Jerusalem doesn't hold the power and the infrastructure of Israel is no longer in place. It's a brave new world, and Daniel says, this can work. This can work. Daniel and his friends don't have the kind of showdown, a battle between the gods that Moses brings against Pharaoh. This story is not like that. And that's what we come to expect from the rest of the Old Testament. Constant battles against idols, against foreign gods, foreign powers, because Yahweh is the only God and he is in charge. But when you get to Daniel, it's compromise, it's negotiation. And yet still with great integrity, still not willing to bow down to Nebuchadnezzar, willing to be thrown into the fire, still not prepared to eat food that wasn't the kind of food that Daniel and his friends believed they should eat according to the law of Moses. But they don't fight. They're quietly confident, sometimes even defiant, and they work hard and they prove themselves. And this is how the Israelites could survive in the brave new post-exilic world. It is a radically different strategy from anything we've read so far. And this Daniel, the book of Daniel, is massively significant in the story because of that, because it gives people a new way to think about their faith in the new world that they found themselves in. But the thing is, for us as modern readers, the reality is that religion and the state is not normally the issue top of our agenda. Certainly for those of us living here in the UK, it's not. And yet the power of the state and the power of religion is an issue that does affect us and that does warrant our attention. Being able to live with integrity really matters. Perhaps Daniel inspires us to live our lives with devotion to God, whether we find ourselves in the halls of power or on the exile's road to nowhere.